of this terrible event ever since it occurred in mid last month. So from there, I'll turn it to Mr. Haggard and the Perrys. Thank you.
Good morning. Again, my name is Michael Haggard with the Haggard Law Firm, along with several of my partners. And today we want to introduce you to the Perry family. Deshaun's mother, Happy, and his father, Sean, who, as you all know, about a month ago on November 13th, lost their son, Deshaun, in the terrible UVA shooting in Charlottesville, Virginia. Our law firm has represented thousands of victims of gun violence, from 6-year-old King Carter in his apartments in Liberty City to Joaquin Oliver and Scott Beagle at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Parkland. There is absolutely no end in sight of the gun violence epidemic in the United States of America. 10 years ago yesterday, 20 elementary school children and 6 teachers were killed at Sandy Hook Elementary, as we all know. And America at that time said, how many children will it take until America takes the gun violence problem seriously? And the answer to that, as of present day, is over 25,000 children. Over 25,000 children in the United States of America have died since Sandy Hook. And the United States of America has done nothing about it. We've made no progress on gun violence except for one thing. We lead the world in every statistical category. It was announced yesterday that the United States of America now has more guns than people. There are over 350 million guns on the streets of the United States of America, and it's not going to slow down. Another category that we have taken over, gun violence has, is that for 50 years in this country, the number one cause of death for Americans under 19 were automobile accidents. Now, guns have taken over that statistical category as well. The number one cause of death for people under 19 in the United States is gun violence. And the Perrys now find themselves involuntarily brought into the gun violence movement. They didn't ask for this. All these 2 wonderful parents did was raise a kind, humble version of the American dream. A kid from Richmond Heights who went to Gulliver Prep, and like every young athlete, achieved his dream, his parents' dream that they fought so hard for, a football scholarship to one of the best universities that our nation has to offer, at the University of Virginia. He had done everything right. They had done everything right. As Coach Earl Sims and I, when we addressed you a couple weeks ago, talked about, he had made it. He had made it. To know one thing about Deshaun, a major college football player at the University of Virginia, after a brutal loss to Pittsburgh on Saturday, his one day off was Sunday. One day off. And he went for extra credit to the play about Emmett Till. That's what he's doing on his day off after he went to church that morning with his teammates. And he was gunned down and lost his life. And these 2 beautiful parents who did everything right lost their angel. And before I turn it over to these wonderful parents, I will tell you that it's not only their loss. This loss is our loss. This loss is South Florida's loss. Deshaun Perry was a hero to young kids throughout Sunnyland Park, Richmond Heights. He was a kid who made it from their community, that not only made it because of football, but made it because of academics. Made it because he loved something maybe as much as football, with the arts. He was going to graduate this spring. We all have lost, and we continue to lose if we don't do something about it. And the Perrys are going to talk to you about their wonderful light and Deshaun, but also where they want to go from here. So I'm going to turn it over to Happy to talk to you all, and then Sean will follow.
Good morning. My name is Happy Perry. I am the mother of Deshaun Perry. I'm here to stand in the gap and for my son who was killed in Virginia, and to be his voice. My son was a loving, caring young man. He loved his family, he loved his teammates, and this is heartbreaking right now. My take here, I would like to advocate on his behalf for mental health and our gun violence laws. I'm asking that the football world takes a stand and join us in this fight. I'm asking that all social media outlets be taken and become a part of what we're about right now. And it is gun violence laws, mental health awareness, so that we can put a stop to what's happened to my family, and so that it won't happen to other families in America. Thank you.
Sean.
Good morning. My first name is Sean, last name is Perry. Deshaun's dad. Just going to follow up what my wife is saying. We're here to advocate against the gun violence and mental health issues that's going on with. We're asking the college football world to stand with us. If you take those Heisman candidates, they have a huge platform. They can stand with us with sensitive gun laws, make a statement, and just let them know that they're behind us. Just give a voice. They're a voice. There are thousands of voices out there. So we're very, very heartbreaking right now. I'm even standing up here to be able to talk. So we have a strong faith, and I believe that my son is in a very, very good place right now. And that's why I'm standing here. So I'm here speaking that he was a great kid, a smart kid, an intelligent kid. He'd earned everything that he had. Nobody can take that away from him. Everything that he put his mind to, he earned. So that's one reason that we're here, to make sure another family would never, never go through this again. And we'll take any questions from here regarding this statement.
I have a question for Happy. As a mom myself, I guess my question to you is there a certain moment or time where you miss him the most? And why that moment?
The other day, it's the holidays, definitely. We were trying to put up the Christmas tree to give a little bit of hope in the house. And Deshaun was 6'5", so he was always our tree topper. So we would wait until he comes home, because he was playing football, to put the tree topper on. So that really was that was a moment for me, because I couldn't grasp it. He's not here.
Can you give us a sense, Mom and Dad, about just how devastating it's been to try to get through every day since it happened to now? I mean, we've spoken to so many families who've gone through horrible tragedies like yours. It's unimaginable for us who haven't done it. Can you describe for us how difficult it's been?
It's been very difficult because everything in the house, we have pictures, and we have to walk by his room. We had to go up there to clean up his apartment. So everything is in that room and is locked up. But we still have to pass that every day. And just missing him, The cemetery is not that far from it as well. So I have to take that road a lot as well as I travel. And it's been a quite difficult time for us as a family.
You kind of mentioned memory involving the holidays. Any other memories that come to mind when you think of your son?
Deshaun he was the life of the party. He was the prankster of the family. He's good for hiding in the garage with a Halloween mask on, he'll sit there and wait for an hour just to get his joke off. And he would just laugh all day, and it was never a dull moment with him. Never.
What was Deshaun like as a child, growing up in the house with you guys day to day?
Always a competitor. Deshaun, he was born with asthma, so he was given medication to help him breathe. So it gave him a lot of energy. So that's how we got to football. So we started with karate. That it worked, but because Deshaun would never, if he got into a match with a girl, she just beat him. And he said, my mom told me, don't hit girls. So he would just stand there and just take it. But he would be so proud at the end. And he would go, he's like, Mommy, I won. Yes, you did. But yes, so we turned to football, and that was his niche.
How proud are you of the fact that he was involved in so many things beyond football at UVA? Just like to go to see a play about Emmett Till, he was involved in social justice causes. And so were his teammates who tragically died that day, from what I've read, right?
Yes.
Right. I'm very, very, very proud. Even in high school, he took up arts, and that's where he really, really got started. And it just took off once he got to college. So he was very, very involved. If you didn't know Deshaun, you wouldn't even talk about football off the field. You wouldn't even know that he was a football player. Because once he gets off, he's just a regular old kid. He would talk about more politics. He would talk about religion. He would talk about anything other than football. So we're very, very proud of who he became as a young man, as a leader. And he was just a great, great guy, great young man, which I'm learning from him as well, as a dad. I tell you how much I'm proud of him.
For people watching later, what would you want them to know about your son? And what would you say to the community in general?
Deshaun loved his community, and everything that he did to make us proud. He would come home on his breaks, go to the local parks, throw footballs with the kids, go back to Gulliver, help out his coaches, go to the elementary school that's right around the corner, play basketball with the kids. So he was just a fun, loving young man that did everything right. And this is a horrific in 6 months before he was ready to graduate from college.
And as we speak, when he wanted to come home this year for Christmas, he wanted to put together a bike drive. So we're actually right now, as a family, we're trying to get that going for him in his name and his honor to give back to the community. So that's one of the goals that he was looking forward to coming home this year for this Christmas.
I guess the last question I would have is just for our lawmakers. You've now joined so many, unfortunately, other parents who have lost their loved ones to gun violence. Maybe now you're getting, unfortunately, more familiar with the arguments they've made and the legislation that has not passed. If a senator or one of our lawmakers is watching this right now, what's your main message to them?
We need to change gun laws. Change them. We need more stipulations. The red flags were there, and this young man was still able to purchase a firearm. And that in itself is a red flag for our nation.
So there was issues with him, mental health issues or something, that he should have been red flagged? Is that
Well, there was, he tried to buy a gun twice illegally. Once he was underage, another time because of his criminal record, it was red flagged, he wasn't able to purchase. But then a couple months later, at the same gun seller, he's allowed to buy the weapon after 2 previous illegal tries. So what the Perrys want to get through is these loopholes where there's no, at that point in time, the sellers, manufacturers get to hide behind the federal preemption laws and others and say, we sold it legally. When everybody knows that if that was a negligence case, they committed negligence. They knew he tried to do this twice illegally. The other issue that the Perrys have talked about is obviously the University of Virginia. He was on their radar. There had been information relayed to the university that he had guns on campus. He lived in student housing. They started a threat assessment, which showed that he had not reported prior arrest, which is a student conduct violation. He would not cooperate and talk to them. At that point in time, they should have gone into that student housing, which they had every right to do. And he had multiple guns in his student housing apartment. And so the threat assessment was not conducted correctly. They could have removed him from campus well before this incident. And I will say that, you look at Happy and Sean right now wearing and proud to wear their UVA colors, and the University of Virginia gave Sean his opportunity, but they made a mistake. But it'd be naive to think that there aren't guns at the University of Miami right now, student housing, and that there aren't students at any school in the United States who have mental health problems that just went through COVID. We've got a huge mental health issue in this country, and all our politicians do is use it as an excuse when there's a mass shooting. They don't fund it. So what's unique about this incredible family is they recognize that the assailant who took their son's life had problems, but he didn't get the help that he needed. And when you have those problems that we have throughout this country, and you have unfettered, easy access to weapons, that, when those two things collide, is why we have 40,000 gun deaths every year in our country. So one thing that they want the University of Virginia to cooperate with is not only acknowledging what happened here, but be a leader for our colleges and universities who all have this problem going on. Every single one. There's a small school in Ohio right now that has this problem. There's a kid on that campus who's disturbed and can easily get a weapon. And that tragedy can happen there, and it has happened. So those are the areas that they want to go into, and they really want the college football world, much like March for Your Lives after Parkland, the influence that college football players now have with all the changes with their platforms to say at every university, help us with this problem, to the students, to the other players, because our generation has failed. Maybe Happy, you could talk a little bit about the letter he wrote in 8th grade about violence to everyone, just to show the foreshadowing that he...
So I received a letter from his 8th grade teacher at the Gulliver Academy, and he noted that there was an issue with gun violence and that his faith leads him to understand the ways of the world and not to go astray. But at the end of the story, it said that everywhere he goes, he's going to let his little light shine. So that speaks volume, and that was who he was. Everywhere he went, he wanted to leave a light for everyone.
What would you suggest to other parents that may have kids that are having mental issues at this point? Get involved or try to keep an eye on it, make sure this doesn't happen to another family?
Mental health, for me, sometimes is shunned away, and parents don't get the help get the help for their children that's needed. When you see the red flags, seek help. Seek help. Because not only it may not, it may be, it was my child this time, next time it could be yours.
Mr. Haggard, are you filing a lawsuit at this point? And if so, against who?
Yeah, at the present time, we're waiting for the investigation. If you know, the university and the local police have sent the investigation up to the Attorney General of the state of Virginia. And they've appointed a council to investigate. We're actually talking with them this afternoon to find out more about their findings. So we are exploring, looking at the University of Virginia's responsibility here. Unfortunately, as you all know, due to federal preemption, right now we're limited in what we can do with a gun manufacturer or even this gun seller who had the red flag. So we're going to look at that. We've already had meetings with the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence on those issues. As we investigate the lawsuit, the other thing that we're doing immediately is how do we make these changes within this community? And that's something that I think you guys have covered all these terrible tragedies before, and we never get momentum. And I think now's the time to focus on here are the issues with this terrible shooting, with universities, with the difference that they can make. But again, at some point in time, there has to be the lifting of the restrictions, not only in gun control measures, but the liability of gun manufacturers and gun sellers. Automobiles don't have this problem. When we had an exploding Pinto, there was a lawsuit, there was a verdict, and Ford changed the car. When you just think about automobiles and all of us, what we do to drive, the license we have to get, the tests we take, the training. Nobody has to do that for a gun. Just go buy it. You don't have to do anything. You don't need a license. You don't need to be trained. And then look at what car manufacturers do. We could stay here for 3 hours. Talk about the safety measures in cars. You could talk about with your iPhone. You could leave that here. I can't get into it. But you could leave your Glock there, or you could leave your AR-15 there, and I can go use it. But I can't use your iPhone. Smart technology is easily accessible and adaptable for guns, which you could think about would eliminate all secondary crimes, meaning a stolen weapon, meaning a found weapon, meaning straw purchases, like that. But that bill's gone nowhere in Congress. So those are things that not only the Perrys, but we can rattle off the names. You all have met them and covered them. That's what Manny Oliver's trying to do, what the Beagles are trying to do, what all the Parkland parents, what the Columbine parents, the Sandy Hook parents, the Pulse parents. We could keep going. And that's where we find ourselves. So unfortunately, the Perrys are now aligned with all those families, but they're willing to take on the fight.
Any other questions?
Anything else you want to say about Deshaun?
You can mention number 6 in his goals, but I'll give you back. Letter.
So Deshaun had a letter that was, well, it was actually a list. And number 6, he had 6 bullets. He had completed 4 of the 6. But number 6 was getting drafted into the NFL, helping his community, and helping his family and the people that helped him get there. So that was like he was a goal chaser. And it's on his wall with some sticky tape. And so once he would check off, and he was down to 5 and 6.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
So, when you say this little light, you mentioned that like the church, is that from this little light?
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.